At the height of her power, Meg Ryan was untouchable. She was the face of an entire era, commanding massive box office success, record-breaking paychecks, and a level of audience trust few actors ever reach. Then, suddenly, everything shifted when her marriage began to unravel. A co-star, the legendary Russell Crowe, entered the picture, and the scandal that followed would change her life overnight. For more than 2 decades, she stayed silent. But now, at 64, Meg Ryan has finally broken her silence. And the truth about what happened between her and Russell Crowe is not what you'd expect. The rise of Meg Ryan. At some point in the 1990s, Meg Ryan was one of the most valuable women in Hollywood. She was the face of romantic comedy, the actress who could open a film based on her name alone. When audiences wanted to laugh, cry, and believe in love, they went to see Meg Ryan. She made over $670 million at the box office from just 4 films. She earned $15 million for a single movie at a time when that kind of paycheck was reserved for the biggest male stars. She was America's sweetheart. And then, in the early 2000s, it all fell apart. The collapse did not happen overnight. It began with a marriage, then an affair, then a scandal that the tabloids could not stop printing. And at the center of it all was a man named Russell Crowe. Meg Ryan was born Margaret Hyra on November 19, 1961, in Fairfield, Connecticut. Her mother, Susan Jordan, was a former actress and teacher. Her father, Harry Hyra, was also a teacher. She took the stage name Meg Ryan, using her maternal grandmother's maiden name, a small change that would eventually become known around the world. She studied first at the University of Connecticut, then transferred to New York University. She left 1 semester before graduating to pursue acting, a risk that most aspiring actors never take and few survive. Her first substantial role came on the soap opera As the World Turns, where she played Betsy Stewart, Montgomery Andropoulos, from 1982 to 1984. Soap operas were a training ground for young actors, and Ryan learned the craft quickly, but she wanted more than daytime television. She wanted films. Her big break came in 1986 with Top Gun, the action drama starring Tom Cruise and Anthony Edwards. Ryan played Carol Bradshaw, the wife of Edwards' character, Goose. It was not a leading role, but the film was a cultural phenomenon. Audiences noticed her. Directors noticed her. And 3 years later, she landed the role that would define her career. When Harry Met Sally was released in 1989, Ryan played Sally Albright, a woman who believes that men and women cannot be friends because romantic feelings always get in the way. The film was smart, funny, and unexpectedly moving. It also featured one of the most famous scenes in movie history. Ryan received her first Golden Globe nomination for the performance. The 1990s belonged to her. She starred in 4 major romantic comedies that grossed over $670 million worldwide. Combined, When Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle, French Kiss, and You've Got Mail. She worked with Tom Hanks twice, and their on-screen chemistry became legendary. Audiences automatically knew that when they bought a ticket to a Meg Ryan movie, they would leave the theater feeling good. But Ryan was not just a romantic comedy actress. She wanted to show range. In 1994, she starred in When a Man Loves a Woman, playing an alcoholic high school guidance counselor. It was a darker, dramatic role, and she earned a Screen Actors Guild Award nomination for it. In 1998, she starred in 2 box office smashes, City of Angels with Nicolas Cage, and You've Got Mail with Tom Hanks. She was everywhere. She was unstoppable. By 2000, her salary reflected her status. She received a paycheck of $15 million for Proof of Life, a thriller about a kidnapping negotiator. That kind of money was rare for any actor, male or female. It established her as one of the highest-paid actresses in Hollywood at the time. She could have had almost any role she wanted. There were roles she turned down, too. One of the most famous was Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs. The role went to Jodie Foster, who won an Academy Award for it. Ryan had different priorities. She was building a career on warmth and relatability, not darkness and violence. She knew what her audience wanted, and she gave it to them. For a decade, that strategy worked perfectly. But behind the smile, behind the box office numbers, And behind the $15 million paychecks, her personal life was not as picture-perfect as her films. She was married to a man she had met on the set of a movie years earlier. That marriage was crumbling, and the man who would become entangled in her life was already famous for his intensity, his temper, and his willingness to say exactly what he thought. His name was Russell Crowe, and when he arrived on the set of Proof of Life, everything changed. The man before Russell Crowe? Before Russell Crowe, there was Dennis Quaid. He was not just Meg Ryan's husband. He was a movie star in his own right, a leading man who had appeared in films like The Right Stuff and Jaws 3D before Ryan became a household name. When they started dating in the late 1980s, Quaid was arguably the more recognizable of the two. But fame is a strange thing. Sometimes it shifts and grows in one direction while shrinking in another, and by the time their marriage ended in 2000, the balance had tipped so far that Quaid would later admit he felt like he had disappeared every time they walked down the street together. They first met on the set of the 1987 sci-fi comedy Inner Space. It was a professional encounter, nothing more. But when they reunited for the 1988 movie Doa, something clicked. They began dating, and the relationship moved quickly. Plans to wed in 1990 were put on hold after Quaid admitted to Ryan that he had been taking illicit substances regularly. It was a confession that could have ended everything. Instead, it led to rehab. Quaid later told the Sunday Mercury that he had been addicted, and Meg did not know it. He went to treatment in 1990, got clean, and the wedding was back on. They married on Valentine's Day in 1991. Their son, Jack Quaid, was born on April 24, 1992. Jack would grow up to become an actor himself, appearing in The Hunger Games and the television series The Boys. But in those early years, he was just a baby born to two movie stars trying to balance careers, parenting, and the pressures of Hollywood. The marriage was not stable. Behind the scenes, Quaid was still struggling with the demons that had sent him to rehab before the wedding. He later described his addiction to the Sunday Times. At the height of his addiction, he was using a very huge amount of these substances per day. He described having what he called a white light experience, a moment where he saw himself dead and losing everything. That vision, he said, was what convinced him to attend rehab. He got clean. He stayed clean. But the damage to his marriage had already been done. There was another strain on the relationship that had nothing to do with illicit substances. It had to do with fame. As Ryan's career skyrocketed in the 1990s, Quaid's did not. She was starring in blockbuster after blockbuster. He was working, but not at the same level. In a 2018 interview with Megyn Kelly on NBC, Quaid admitted that Ryan's growing fame affected him. He said that when they went out on the streets of New York, people would shout her name. He admitted that he actually did feel like he disappeared. He reflected on that feeling years later, calling himself small for feeling that way. He said it was a growth opportunity, but at the time, it was painful. The couple announced their separation in June 2000. The divorce was finalized in 2001, but the timeline of the split became a subject of controversy because of what happened next. Ryan was already being linked to Russell Crowe, her co-star in Proof of Life. The tabloids suggested that the affair had caused the marriage to end. Ryan pushed back. In October 2000, she told W Magazine that her marriage and the dissolution of her marriage happened before it became a sport for the press. She said the public and the press tuned in way after. She initially claimed that no one cheated. She said neither she nor Dennis was cavalier about a breakup. She said he never cheated on her. Those statements would later seem to contradict what she told Oprah Winfrey in 2006. By then, the divorce was years behind her, and she was more willing to be honest about what had happened. She told Oprah that it was a very unhealthy marriage. She said it was pretty much not a happening marriage for a very long time. She said she probably should have left much earlier. The picture she painted was of a relationship that had been over in every meaningful sense long before the papers were signed. Quaid, for his part, was honest about the emotional toll. He told W Magazine in July 2001 that he got through shock, depression, and anger. He said that when you break up, your whole identity is shattered. He said that was why it was like death. The relationship with Russell Crowe? By the time Meg Ryan met Russell Crowe, her marriage to Dennis Quaid was already over. At least, that was what she would later insist. The public saw it differently. The tabloids saw it differently. And when photographs emerged of Ryan and Crowe holding hands, the story wrote itself. America's sweetheart had left her husband for a volatile Australian actor, known for his temper and his intensity. The scandal was immediate, the coverage was relentless, and the relationship, which lasted less than a year, would change the trajectory of Ryan's career forever. They met in 2000 on the set of Proof of Life, an action thriller about a hostage negotiator. Crowe played Terry, a man who rescues kidnap victims. Ryan played Alice, a woman whose husband has been kidnapped. The film's plot involved their characters developing romantic sparks. Behind the scenes, those sparks were real. The chemistry that was supposed to be acting became something else. In July 2000, before the divorce from Quaid was even finalized, Ryan and Crowe were photographed holding hands while leaving Tom Cruise's party for the premiere of Mission Impossible 2. It was the kind of image that tabloids dream about, two of the biggest stars in Hollywood, emerging from a party, looking like they had something to hide. Prior to that, they had been seen nuzzling in restaurants and clubs all over London during filming. They were seen gallivanting all over California and Australia together. Friends who watched the relationship unfold described two people who were completely consumed by each other. One friend told People magazine that they seemed crazy about each other. They had great talks. They emailed each other a lot. He called her all the time. Another friend described Ryan as extremely infatuated with Crowe. The couple pretended to be house hunting together in Australia, a charade that fooled no one. A friend described the act as sweet. Crowe would point at properties and ask Ryan, "How about that one?" They were playing house in public while Ryan's divorce played out in the courts and in the tabloids. But for all their public appearances, they were also extremely secretive. Even with friends, they did not share details. Both Ryan and Crowe opted out of doing most press interviews for Proof of Life to avoid discussing the affair. It was a decision that angered the film's director, Taylor Hackford. He told the Calgary Sun that he was deeply hurt by their choice. He had made a movie, and he wanted to promote it. But the two stars of that movie would not talk to the press because they did not want to answer questions about their personal lives. The film, Hackford believed, suffered as a result. The relationship lasted less than 1 year. Ryan and Crowe reportedly started dating in early 2000 and ended by Christmas of that year. By December, they were separated, each spending the holidays on different continents. The breakup was quiet. There were no dramatic public statements, no interviews explaining what had gone wrong. They simply moved on. But the fallout from the relationship did not end when the romance did. Ryan was painted as a scarlet woman. The woman who had played Sally Albright, the woman who had made America believe in love, was now being described as a homewrecker. Her squeaky clean image, the one that had made her $15 million a movie, took a major hit. She went from America's sweetheart to something else. The public did not forgive her easily, and the industry, which had once lined up to work with her, began to pull away. Now, at 64, Meg Ryan has finally broken her silence in a way she never has before. In a candid interview with the Sunday Times in early 2026, timed to the 25th anniversary of Proof of Life, she revealed that the affair with Crowe was not the crime it was made out to be. She said, "My marriage was dead for years. Russell didn't kill it. He just showed up after the funeral." She also admitted that the experience was liberating, not crushing. She recalled walking through a London hotel lobby shortly after the scandal broke. The whole room stopped. People stared. Instead of crumbling, she started laughing. "I realized that public disapproval has no power if you know yourself. That moment changed everything for me." A crew member from Proof of Life recently told People that the Crowe relationship was a typical co-star fling. But a friend of Ryan's revealed that Crowe wanted more. Russell wanted to marry Meg and have kids with her. His attention was excessive. It was too much, too soon. She had just come out of a difficult divorce. She wasn't ready. Crowe himself hinted to the Herald Sun in February 2001 that geographic separation. He lived in Australia. She in Los Angeles was why they didn't last. He called Ryan a beautiful and courageous woman, and said he grieved the loss of her companionship, but not her friendship. As of 2026, Crowe is in a long-term relationship with Brittany Theriot, and he told Nine's 60 Minutes in 2025 that he will never marry again. The scandals that followed. The affair with Russell Crowe was supposed to be the worst of it, but the scandals did not stop there. In 2003, Ryan walked into a television studio in London for an interview with Michael Parkinson, one of the most respected talk show hosts in British history. What happened over the next 17 minutes would follow her for the rest of her career. She was labeled difficult, arrogant, and cold. The interview became legendary for all the wrong reasons. And years later, even Parkinson admitted he had been wrong. The interview took place in October 2003. Ryan was in the United Kingdom to promote In the Cut, an erotic thriller directed by Jane Campion. It was a dramatic departure from the romantic comedies that had made her famous. The film required explicit scenes, and Ryan knew it would be controversial. What she did not expect was to be interrogated about it on live television. Parkinson asked aggressive questions from the start. He questioned why Ryan would appear in such a film. He suggested that the film was cynical and bleak. He implied that her personal life, her divorce, and her relationship with Crowe had driven her to make darker choices. Ryan became visibly uncomfortable. She gave short, one-word answers. She looked like she wanted to be anywhere else. Eventually, she told Parkinson to just wrap it up. The fallout was immediate. Parkinson later called Ryan's behavior unforgivable. He said she had been rude to the other guests on the show and had treated the audience with disrespect. The British press piled on, describing Ryan as sullen, snooty, and arrogant. In a poll conducted in 2006, British viewers ranked the Meg Ryan interview as the third most shocking chat show moment in history, behind only Grace Jones slapping a host and David Icke declaring that the world was about to end. For years, that was the narrative. Ryan was the villain. Parkinson was the victim. But, in 2021, Parkinson gave an interview to Radio Times that changed the story. He said he wished he had dealt with Ryan in a more courteous manner. He admitted that he was quite obviously angry with her, and that it was not his business to be angry toward his guests. He said he came across as kind of pompous and that he could have done better. When asked what he would say to Ryan today, he said 2 words: "I'm sorry." He added, however, that she played a part in it too. It was not a full apology, but it was an acknowledgement that the interview had not been his finest moment. Ryan has spoken about the encounter only a few times. In a 2024 interview with the Times of London, she called Parkinson a disapproving father. She said she felt like he was berating her for her role in the movie. She added that she did not try to speak to Parkinson after the show. She just left. "I didn't know who that guy was to begin with," she said, "and I don't have to think about him again." The interview damaged her career, but it was not the only factor. In the Cut and her next film, Against the Ropes, were both critical and commercial failures. In the Cut grossed only $23 million worldwide. Against the Ropes, a boxing drama released in 2004, opened to just $3 million on its first weekend. The woman who had once been the most valuable actress in Hollywood was now struggling to get audiences to show up. Following these films, Ryan took a 3-year hiatus from Hollywood. She told the New York Times magazine that she was burned out. She said she felt like she was behind a window looking at her life. She also said she felt done when they felt done. The they she was referring to was Hollywood, the industry that had built her up and then torn her down. Her hiatus from acting lasted nearly a decade. She told People magazine in October 2023 that she took a giant break because she felt like there were so many other parts of her experience as a human being she wanted to develop. "I wanted to have my own thoughts," she said. The return and the truth. In 2023, Ryan returned to the screen in the romantic comedy What Happens Later, which she also co-wrote and directed. The film was not a blockbuster, but it represented something important. She was working on her own terms, telling a story that mattered to her, and refusing to let the scandals of the past define her future. Now, in 2026, with the 25th anniversary of Proof of Life approaching and a new generation discovering her films on streaming platforms, Ryan is finally telling her full story. In her forthcoming memoir, What Happens Now, due fall 2026. And when I finally chose myself, the world called me a villain. I'll take that trade. The truth about Meg Ryan and Russell Crowe is finally out. It wasn't a scandalous affair that destroyed a marriage. It was two people who connected at a complicated moment, burned brightly, and then moved on. The tabloids told one story. Ryan has told another. And at 64, she is no longer interested in defending herself. She is interested in living. As she told the Sunday Times earlier this year, I don't regret any of it. Not the marriage, not the affair, not the silence. It all brought me here, and here is exactly where I want to be. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.